Senator Doug Finley is the Senator for Ontario South Coast, former political director of the Conservative Party of Canada, and National Campaign Director for the upcoming federal election. How are you today, Senator?
Oh, very well, thanks, Stephen.
Okay, you are making a bit of news lately because you are going to rise in the Senate tomorrow to speak about, what is it that you're going to speak about?
I'm going to speak about freedom of speech. And the primary reason that I'm doing it is I'm a passionate believer, obviously, in free speech. I've been in China many, many years ago. I was in Chile during the Pinochet regime. I was in the Philippines under the Marcos regime. And I see that if you lose the freedom of speech, you've basically lost all freedoms. I strongly believe that even if you lose all other freedoms, if you've got the freedom of speech, you can win the others back. Okay? And I'm disturbed by a developing trend in Canada at the moment, away from what is, defending free speech to going overboard with a politically correct counterfeit belief that Canadians have the right not to be offended.
Okay, and I wonder if you can give me any specific examples that you've perhaps observed that have sort of driven you to want to make this sort of statement.
Obviously the recent brouhaha over Ann Coulter is a classic example. I mean, Ann is a very sort of magnetic personality. She's a lightning rod for a certain level of discourse and opinion, often outrageous, sometimes over the top, but she has a right to be heard. Another case, for example, at the moment, I think even today in the BC Human Rights Office, they're trying, I guess is the best phrase, a guy called Guy Earle, who's a stand-up comedian. Do I like Earle's brand of humour? No, not particularly. But what he said was, during a clear context of a comedy show at which he was being heckled, he made some statements. I don't necessarily agree that it's not my kind of humour, but he has every right to make them. So there are examples like this that crop up. Of course, there's the Israel event case, which I'm not going to comment on because it's in pretty heavy legal proceedings at the moment. But there's a growing pattern here where this right not to be offended is overwhelming. You know, Orwell said that freedom is a right to tell people what they don't want to hear. And I really strongly believe in that particular thing.
Okay, well, we have freedom of speech that's defended in the Charter of Rights.
Yes.
But yet there's a bureaucratic body which sort of defines it and is allowed to exist that by its own discretion defines the limits of acceptable speech. Would you agree with that statement?
I would agree. Yes, I would agree that any process to invoke violence or physical harm or elimination of particular genders, races, colors, or creeds is wrong. I would even say that there is an aspect, it's a human aspect of political correctness, but not political correctness in steroids. And I think that that's what we're beginning to fall into, that we're taking away the ability for Canadians to discourse freely, to listen or to speak freely. This goes back way past the original Canadian Confederation even. This goes back to the parliaments of Great Britain, the parliaments of France, this freedom of speech. John Milton talked about it. Voltaire, of course, was a classic. It's the most fundamental right that we have. Without it, we have we can't have fair trials. You can't have an open and democratic parliament. You can't have true freedom of assembly. This is a fundamental, this is the strategic, in my view, the strategic cornerstone to our parliamentary system is freedom of speech.
Okay, do you think specifically that Section 13(1) of the Human Rights Act should be repealed?
I think I'd rather take a pass on that, quite frankly.
Okay. And do you think that we need to take specific measures to, I guess you could say, rein in those human rights commissions, both provincially and federally?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what would some of those things that we could do immediately, if not abolish Section 13(1)?
I would rather make that the subject of ongoing debate, to be frank. I have certain views, but I'd rather share them with my colleagues before I share them with
the greater blogosphere.
Yes.
Okay, and perhaps going in a different direction, but on the same topic, do you think there should be a special section of the criminal code that deals with those that inhibit free speech?
That's a good question.
Because you can protest, you can suggest, we disagree with this person's point of view, we allow them to speak, but when it goes so far as to shut down a speaker, to intimidate, or to remove that speaker's charter right of expression, do you think that there should be a special section of the criminal code that punishes that sort of thing?
I think by and large there probably should be.
Okay.
To what degree and how punitive it should be, I don't know. I'm not sure that we've got to this stage that it's so bad that we have to do that. Really, my intention in speaking tomorrow is to see if we can bring to Parliament's attention that this is an erosion that has started, and it should be arrested, hopefully by common goodwill, before it goes any further.
Okay, now some critics have suggested that Conservatives have been cautious in approaching this issue because it's not yet politically saleable to the Canadian public to tread on this issue of free speech and to move the marker in one direction or another. Now you're the former political director of the Conservative Party. How do you make this issue politically saleable?
Well, I'm not, I don't think for a start that this should be a politically saleable yes or no discussion. I'm not speaking here as the former director of political operations of the Conservative Party. I believe this is a bipartisan issue. This is important to Liberals and New Democrats, even to the Bloc, as it is to us Conservatives. I don't think that this is a discussion or a debate that should draw extremes along party lines. I really don't. I'm surprised that we have one opposition member in the House of Commons who has decided to try to politicize this. I defend his right to do that, of course, but you know, I really would prefer people didn't do that we had an open and fair bipartisan dialogue on this.
Okay, and finally, just on another topic, Elections Canada has appealed the in-and-out decision. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, again, it's now before the appeal court, so I'm limited as to what I can say, except that, in my view, reading both the decisions, that it was a fairly clear victory in both for the Conservative Party. I was surprised that Elections Canada would commit to spending more public funds to push this any further than they have done. One would hope that something can be worked out. No animus towards Elections Canada, but I think it's time that this was brought to an end.
Okay, Senator, thank you very much for sitting down with me and having a chat about free expression.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.